the billionaire investor Mark Cuban, who joins us now. Because, Mark, you were listening to our conversation about AI, and I think as everybody, and you yourself included, I'm sure, is sort of trying to get your arms around the DeepSeek story and what it really means, and what correlations, if any, there are back to 1999, which you know better than most, considering you sold your company in April of '99 for $6 billion and collared it, and became the Mark Cuban we all know now. How are you thinking about all this?
So I think one of the fundamental issues with the market right now is no companies are going public. You know, there isn't, back then, you know, Amazon was a new company. Dell was relatively new. You know, there were incumbents that we all looked at as being, you know, the default powerhouses. But there were new companies coming public that we can look at and say, okay, maybe these guys have something unique. I mean, if it was today, Google probably would not be public. Amazon might not be public. You can go down the list, and there are companies right now that are up and coming in the AI space that are private. And because they're private, nobody gets to invest in them. Or at least, you know, typical investors don't. And you don't really get much conversation about them. And I think that impacts the conversations and the market movements that we saw yesterday and today.
Do you think it's going to change? Does this open the door to more startups because of what we witnessed from DeepSeek, the way we sort of think about these open source models, the way that, you know, maybe the incumbents are suddenly put on the defensive, so to speak?
Yeah, it was interesting because you mentioned earlier about an arms race, you know, the Metas, the Amazon, OpenAI, all just spending just billions of dollars. And that really reduced the competition because it sent the message that, hey, you've got to raise all this money just to play the game. Now with DeepSeek, the door is open. And actually, the door had already been open for smaller companies that were, you know, like company Grok that does an inference processor. The door has been open, but I think it's open wider now. And you'll see more companies get more visibility. And I think with the new administration and the changes at the SEC, I think there's going to be an incentive and a push for more companies to go public. Because the reality is it's not a stock picker's market anymore because, you know, the number of public companies continues to decline.
When you watched the sell-off yesterday, as an investor, I don't know what you're, you know, invested in today in terms of public market stocks. I think you've gone through gyrations over the last, you know, 5 to 10 years of being heavily invested in the U.S. stock market and then perhaps not so much. I mean, how does that look today?
Well, you know, I had gone to cash because I was concerned about tariffs. I was concerned about the uncertainty. You know, how high can this market go? And so when yesterday hit, I certainly took a look and said, okay, is now the time to dive in? And is this just an aberration? And I just don't get that feel. There, like I said earlier, there aren't those up and coming public companies that you can say, look, this just opened the door for them. Let's jump on board with them. I think there's so much uncertainty still on DeepSeek. You know, is the information we got in terms of their cost to create the models accurate? I mean, it's still too early to tell.
Mark Cuban breaks his silence and reveals a harsh truth about the Nvidia stock that Wall Street didn't want you to know about. This all relates to DeepSeek AI, which has made headlines with its extraordinary breakthrough, grabbing the attention of investors and bringing the tech stock market to its knees. What does a billionaire entrepreneur like Mark Cuban have to say about these developments? Let's explore his warnings. Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy.
What impact do you think it'll have on Sam Altman? I'm not sure how well you know him, how much you might know about Open, but the idea that now, you know, he's talking about, wow, this is really an incredible model. It's going to force us maybe to be better and earlier in how they introduce some of their new features as well. I mean, it really feels like, Mark, this was a goalposts moving moment for AI and how we're all going to relate to it as investors. Do you feel that way too?
Well, it certainly has been perceived that way. I mean, I think it's still too early to tell. You know, I try to geek out and learn more about mixture of experts and the way they're doing their models and all that stuff. So, you know, I think it's still too early, but I think what really changes is it's not just a race to raise as much money as you can in order to be a player. And it also impacts regulation Because before, when we talked about AI regulation, the presumption was all these companies, the Metas, the Googles, et cetera, OpenAI, they were so big they needed to be regulated because there really weren't up-and-comers that could disrupt them. Now, if all this plays out the way it appears to, the message is, bring on the 12-year-olds, bring on the disruptors who can come in here and change the AI game. There's an old saying, when you run with the elephants, there's the quick and the dead. And we finally found somebody quick who can run with the elephants. And now the question is, can the elephants run with the quick companies like DeepSeek? And I think you're going to see a lot more entries into the AI space. I think you'll see a lot of more private investment into small up-and-coming companies. I can't tell you how many conversations with private companies I've had, and now, it turns out I was wrong, where it was like, well, shoot, you're going to have to raise billions and billions of dollars just to compete with these guys. Now someone can walk in. I had a conversation with a company last week where we were talking about, the thing with TikTok is their algorithm, and they wanted to do algorithms as a service and build models so they can license what they think will be a better than TikTok algorithm to any social media company or other company that wants to use it. And the question was, how big a model and how much of an investment do we need to make? That all just changed. And so I think you'll see a lot more companies get funding that otherwise might not have gotten it because it won't take as much money to compete.
Interesting. I so very much appreciate the fact that you were not only watching the debate and discussion that we were having, but that you were willing to be a part of it. Mark, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Mark Cuban, with his usual candor, explained why he's been keeping his investments largely liquid, hinting at a cocktail of market policy uncertainties and unpredictable tariff announcements that could spoil any bullish rush. Yet, amidst this market volatility, the elephant in the room was the plummeting stock value of Nvidia. Nearly 17% had been wiped off. Cuban's skepticism was palpable as he poised the question of whether this was the appropriate time to buy in, implying that there might be more tech market hits in the long run. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
Journal with a piece looking at whether or not DeepSeek sort of uncovers NVIDIA's liabilities.
Well, look, I think that there's a perception that more is less. More chips, more people who know how to use them, more out of China means less for NVIDIA. NVIDIA's been quiet. What they may have advised people, look, you can look at the CES post-interview, not good enough. I think people have decided that we had a rebound, but the reality is that the orders will decline. By the way, therefore, the power will decline because people are figuring out how to use more with less. And David,
that's the negative thesis.
That's the big negative thesis.
Of course, we've been talking about it since Monday.
Well,
yeah,
I'm just kind of going it over with people.
Okay,
but ASMLF does not say good things. It says bad things because what it says is, look, there's a lot of equipment being used. The more equipment they use, again, we have more is less. So the whole world is kind of coalescing upon the idea that NVIDIA is not as special as we thought. And that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, what does that result in, Jim? Because we've all been having conversations these last few days with as many people who make decisions about what to buy and sell in terms of this area. And the one thing I've heard is maybe it's the out years. Maybe the multiple simply comes down because there is more uncertainty in the name.
Look, I watched Brad Gershon yesterday. I mean, there's a sense that the multiple has become very low. So it's actually one of the lowest. And
Brad's undeterred, by the way. He's a big believer in the overall growth not being in any way impacted. You know,
but if you don't
accelerated compute is the present and it's the future.
Yes, it is. And I would tell you they still have a tremendous lead. Is China an existential threat to them? What China says is that maybe you should pause. But I want to come back and say something that I think that people should remember. If Larry Ellison and Mark Zuckerberg and presumably Elon Musk were all buying the highest end chips, did they not have knowledge about what was going on in China? I think that's fanciful. I think they had tremendous knowledge.
I think they knew. I agree with you.
Which means
and by the way, I mean, there were the way this news played out is puzzling to some because there were plenty of people who were aware of DeepSeek's not just its aspirations, but its accomplishments previously with the previously released models. And so they had to have been aware of this. Yes. And so when you look at Zuckerberg spending $60 to $65 billion, the announcement obviously just on Friday. You look at the Stargate announcement from last week, and Nadella affirming $80 billion, and everybody else. They had to know, Jim. Yeah, and they were undeterred at this point. But everybody's looking everywhere for signs, right? Even Owens Corning, which provides fiber into data centers, I think was a positive read this morning. People are always looking for affirmation.
Right. This is not Cuban's first rodeo, as his initial fortunes were made during the dot-com boom, where timing and insight stood as valuable commodities, much like they do today. DeepSeek's technological promise may be groundbreaking, but its implications for the market and the veracity of their claims on model costs haven't yet clarified the fog. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
I think that we're all kind of used to the greatness of Jensen Huang and Nvidia. I mean, Carl, the most substantive thing that people are hanging their hat on is that all of these customers were mesmerized by President Trump and felt that they have to order. Now, that's almost conspiratorial. I think that they have more in mind than just doing Chat GPT in an advanced way. If that's the case, then these companies in China, they have figured out how to do the lower end. I think Jensen would say, well, that's terrific. What we're on is a very different plane. We've left that behind. We're not about asking them about why did Brinker have a good quarter? Is Starbucks coming back? Did T-Mobile take share? That's the already in the Industrial Revolution. That's the cotton gin. I mean, he's talking about making the sewing machine. And I think that people don't realize that he is a visionary and he is well ahead of everything we're talking about.
So you don't think there's downside to at least the margins?
I do think that there will be, and I think that's why you're seeing some compression. But until someone actually has a better chip, an actual better chip, and there we have to see Amazon. Amazon's going to report. Amazon is the one that is really rival. I was surprised that Advanced Micro actually went down because people feel, hey, listen, if this stuff is so easy, let's put it on AMD. But I think that a lot of that was...
You can start using AMD chips because you don't need all the compute power of the highest GPUs from Nvidia, but I don't know.
I would love to see Lisa Su talk about it. We're in quiet period for everybody. You can't get the stuff that you like.
We're going to get certainly plenty of questions about it on all the calls that are yet to come.
Right.
Whether it's Meta, Microsoft, and on from there.
It is the theme of the moment because some people saw it coming and yet they still ordered. That would be the Zuckerberg case, maybe the Musk piece. And then other people just said, oh my, what am I in? I'm going to go buy a double short Nvidia. And then there are other people who think it's a hand cream.
Mark Cuban's words echoed a cautionary tale for both seasoned and novice investors, as Nvidia's dance through tumultuous trading days becomes a case study in market reactions. Will DeepSeek's promise pave the way for a golden era of cost-effective AI solutions? Where do you place your bets? Share your thoughts. Finally, if you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.